about a year or so, maybe a little bit more, before the release of Alien 3, I had read a story about Alien 3 in, I don't know if it was the National Enquirer or some other type of gossip, like type of newspaper thing. And the story about Alien 3 was what the film was about. I remember reading that Sigourney Weaver had shaved off all her hair for the film, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I think they even showed a picture of Sigourney Weaver, with a bald head. I remember looking at it, and I'm like, okay, that's different. And then I remember the article talking about some of the plot details for Alien 3, and one of them was that Sigourney Weaver was impregnated by the alien, and they wrote in such a way that, at least how I interpreted it, that it wasn't that simply she got face hugged. It was like she had sex with the alien. I think that's what it. I think even explicitly said that Sigourney Weaver had sex with the alien somehow, and she was impregnated by it, and that just I don't know. I thought that was so jarring, and just I don't know. I was just like, what the fuck? Yeah, I thought it was a bit off-putting. Reading that, and I'm like, how accurate this thing can be. This thing has a lot of, this newspaper has a lot of bullshit stuff about celebrities and all kind of other crazy stories. So why would this be true? So I didn't really take much. I just took all the information, with a grain of salt, as they said, and I just well, yeah, whatever. And then Alien 3 was finally released, and I was really anticipating this movie. I don't think I anticipated a film more in the 90s. The only other thing I could say that equaled it, or maybe surpassed, I think maybe Terminator 2. Maybe I was a little bit more excited for that, just a teeny bit more, but maybe not. Maybe it was time. But yeah, Alien 3, I really was anticipating this movie, Alien 3. Um, and when I finally saw it, I saw it that Memorial Day, because it came out Memorial Day weekend. I actually saw it on Memorial Day. It was in Manhattan. It was in the afternoon. I was with my father, my two brothers, and yeah, I loved it. I loved it from the jump. Um, the audience, well, I mean, overall, I don't think the audience, they didn't voice any type of displeasure with the film in general. They definitely was the scenes that you're supposed to be scared, if being scared by horror movies is your thing. They were scared by it. They definitely were vocal throughout the movie. They reacted in a way that you would think that people would react to that type of movie. So it wasn't a dead silent, reaction. But I definitely saw a sign the audience was maybe not fully vibing with the movie in the way that they should. In regards to Newt's autopsy scene, I remember just hearing the audience reaction. You just feel the energy. The movie was losing them. You know, they found the scene to be very despairing, very bleak, very heavy. And I remember hearing a comment, a woman saying I wouldn't do that to my daughter. It was just so dour. The feel inside that auditorium, with that scene, and that was definitely a sign, which I didn't really think about at the time. But yeah, this movie might be in trouble. And I also found the scene disturbing too. One thing, just the whole thing with Newt being dead. Yeah, I have thoughts on that. When I was envisioning Alien 3, I was envisioning, as I'm sure most people were envisioning, that here's this sequel to, two of the greatest films ever made, and this particular sequel will bring back, Ripley and Newt and Hicks and Bishop as well, because Bishop was still functioning, he was still alive at the end of Aliens, and we were just hoping for the quartet to come back and to do more battle against more xenomorphs. And like, why wouldn't we expect that? Like, sequels usually do that. If you survive a film, you almost always come back to do the sequel. And even in situations where, for one reason or another, the actor who played the character may not be able to come back to reprise that character, they usually will get another actor to play that character. Like, with rare exceptions, characters always come back, surviving characters, principal characters in sequels. And why should we have thought any different, with Alien 3? Um, but yeah, we should have thought different with Alien 3 because, um, yeah, Alien 3 was pretty much Ripley's show in regards to characters returning from aliens unceremoniously. Michael Bihn's character Hicks killed at the very beginning of the film. Carrie Henn's Newt killed at the very beginning of the film. And Bishop is like, his state was like, I think he was like at the beginning of the film determined to be like non-functional or something, even though he does come back later in the film, Bishop, only for a brief bit of time, but he does have some screen time in the film, the original Bishop. And but yeah, like I remember how that was just devastating to me. Like, I was really hoping for Michael Biehn to come back. I'm a huge Michael Biehn fan. I was very much looking forward for Carrie Henn to come back. Thought she was great as Newt. And yeah, they just had such a great dynamic, those four characters. And I don't mind, Michael Bihn's, Hicks dying in the film. I don't mind Carrie Henn's Newt dying in the film. Or Lance Henriksen's Bishop, being like no longer able to function. What I do have a problem with, and to this day, them dying so early, literally at the very beginning. I mean, Bishop, like I say, doesn't die necessarily at the beginning of the movie, but basically he's pretty much out of commission for virtually the whole entire film. And like I said, so unceremoniously, like, give these people something to do, first, and then later on in the movie, if you feel like you have to kill one of them or all of them, then there's ways you can do that. That doesn't necessarily alienate the audience. I mean, even if you handle it in the best, most credible, in the best and most sincere way, respectful ways, you're always gonna have people who hate that you killed off characters, particularly in the case with Newt, where the character is a child. But in the way that Alien 3 did it, I totally get it. Like, if you hate Alien 3, a film that definitely to this day still endures a great deal of hate or deep dislike, and if you hate it for that reason alone, that they took the survivors from Aliens who went through all the shit that they did on LV-426 and then on the Sulaco, just to go ahead and just be mercilessly killed in the beginning of Alien 3, yeah, I think you're full blown valid in hating Alien 3. I know James Cameron hates this movie, and I get it. These are his characters. Well, 3 of the 4 of them are his characters, and yeah, they kind of I don't know. They didn't treat him with the best care, to be charitable. And just did it in such a quick and and I can see where they're coming from, thoughtless fashion. I get it if someone thinks that. But yeah, that took me a long time. Even though I loved Alien 3 with all my heart back then, that took me years, to get over the death of those characters, particularly Hicks, particularly at that time, Michael Biehn, he wasn't I don't know, he should have gotten more movies than he did, big movies. He definitely was working back then in the early 90s. He still works now, of course, but yeah, the projects weren't as high profile around that time as they were in the 1980s. And it would have Alien 3 would have been at least a temporary boost to his career at that point, even though with Alien 3 underperforming the way it did, I don't know, maybe it would have been more of a liability to his career, I don't know. But yeah, that, it took me a long time to get over that. I guess I'm still actually over that. But even with those great survivors from Aliens, being killed in Alien 3, I still love Alien 3. Alien 3, you know, in a number of ways was also a transformative film for me. As I mean, certainly not to the same degree as Aliens was. But Alien 3, like, in terms of filmmaking, technical filmmaking, like at this point, like, I became more observant with films, like seeing what it took to make films work. And Alien 3 was like the first film to like really like make me laser focus on things like shot composition, lighting, and other technical elements that was never like fully conscious before of like what made a film work and what it didn't make it work. Like it really made me put laser focus on direction, production design, and other elements that makes a film a film, or make any live action thing anything worth watching and remembering. Yeah, it's just like visually, Alien 3 is one of the best looking films ever. I mean, you can say anything you want about Alien 3. Even Roger Ebert, who had pretty much nothing good to say about Alien 3, called it, and this is not a compliment at all, but he did say Alien 3 was the best looking bad movie ever. I think I'm paraphrasing a bit, but yeah, Alien 3 looks fantastic. Like the gothic setting, like it's just gorgeous. It is gothically gorgeous. Alien 3. Um, that alone made me love the film. And particularly seeing it on the big screen, Alien 3. Um, I'm a massive fan of Ellen Ripley. Like, just seeing her again on screen. Um, and again, Sigourney Weaver just brings her A+ game to this character. I mean, she brings an A+ game to whatever she does, but especially with Ripley, like playing this character, at the time for the third time, and it's just like a distinct interpretation of the character. It still very much feels like the Ripley of the previous two films, but again, just to bring in this new, layer to the character, complexity, nuance. Yeah, it's just seeing Ripley like, be so vulnerable in the way that she was in the first two movies. That does take some degree of courage. Like, you got some actors like, yeah, I don't want to show this character who's known for being like tough and bold, showing in a way that some people might perceive as weak. Yeah, she was like fuck all that. Like, I want to show this woman, like, is going through a really tough time. And you don't see that many mainstream like characters or stories where characters are just at such a point of immense despair and hopelessness. It's like, oh, we can't afford our characters, our tough characters, our towering characters to look like they don't have it together at all times. Like, they always have to be standing strong, and I get that. Like, want to show people at their best, but also you gotta be at times, particularly on a long enough timeline, you gotta show a character, at their worst, going through their worst, enduring the worst. That's the human experience. The highs and the lows, and the fact they were able to do this in such stark fashion with this film, I think, is definitely quite commendable. Regardless of what the end product is, how you feel about it, I feel that should be at least acknowledged. At least the effort, like the execution, I get. If you do not like the execution at all, but the effort, yeah, it should definitely be, acknowledged and appreciated. But other things I love about Alien 3 is the bleakness, the hopelessness, the horror of it. Like few films in general. Forget about big budget, like Hollywood spectacle films. Like, most stuff out there doesn't go as dark and as bleak as Alien 3, and like, in particular, like a big budget thing like Alien 3, like that's like extremely rare. Like, I mean, extremely extremely rare to dare go as dark as Alien 3 went. And the Alien series isn't known for being lighthearted, but this was like a whole new level of like just darkness and heaviness in Alien 3. And yeah, like I just really was I don't know, I just really appreciated that. As someone who loves really dark work. Um yeah, and again, that's that type of like um I guess the mournful moodiness of Alien 3, like the despair of Alien 3. That's definitely not for everyone. I get why the film underperformed, because yeah, like Alien 3, like if you're in a good mood, Alien 3 may not be something you will want to view. If you want to keep your mood, at a good high point, particularly if you're somebody who really loves like you know good conquering everything type of endings, and then you got the ending of Alien 3. I mean, you get even shit the beginning of Alien 3. I think that's the thing. Like Alien 3 is like a gut punch from beginning to end. Like I think if Alien 3 just built up slowly, like worked this way, with the despair, with the hopelessness, like I think people, particularly back then, would have been more willing to, I don't know, embrace it, but to endure it. But since Alien 3 is a gut punch from the very beginning, of just grief, um, and and horror, like just the horror of losing your friends, and the horror of losing a child, and the horror of losing your hope, like from the very first frames of the film. Like, yeah, it could be a lot, definitely a lot with this film. The cinematography by Alex Thompson is, to me, just one of the best lensed works, cinematic lens works I've ever witnessed. And the special effects by Al Guinness and Todd Woodruff. It's yeah, they definitely were more than worthy to follow in the footsteps of Stan Winston and Carlo Rambaldi and H.R. Giger of the original movie. The alien in this film, I love the way the alien looks in this film. Looks to me like, of all the aliens throughout anything in live action media that I've seen, it to me it resembles the most like the original works of H.R. Giger, like in terms of the color scheme, in terms of the look. The only, I guess, little thing about the Alien and Alien 3 is like I wish like it was more bipedal. Like a lot of times in the movie, it's like on all fours, and I get the concept. It's actually an interesting concept. The alien, the face hugger, not so much the face hugger, but the chest burster takes on the traits of whatever host it was in, like the physical traits, and depending on which cut you watch of Alien 3, it's a dog or it's an ox. So that was something that was different, something they wanted to use to separate from the xenomorphs of the previous movies. But yeah, I think the alien like works better on 2 feet than on his hands and on his feet. I don't know, but beyond that, though, I love the way the alien looks in this film. The only thing I do not like, though, and everybody remarks on it, yes, that Rod puppet looks fucking terrible. And the thing is, like, I've seen review after review after review, and Reddit review after review that basically saying like it's CG. It is not CG. I can understand why people think that it's CG, but it's not CG. The optical stuff with the alien in this film, it's rod puppet technology. But I can see like the way how it was incorporated in the film, how it might look like early bad CG. I get it, but it's not CGI. Um, I don't know if it might have looked even worse with CGI back then. But then again, maybe it would have looked better. I don't know. But it's not CGI technology. It's a raw puppet technology, which I'm so glad they never used again because it did not work. In 3. And if now I heard there's like rumors out there. There's a 4K version of Alien 3 that Disney has, in their library that they haven't released yet. I don't know if that's true or not, but it is true. Like, I would tell Disney, hey, like, normally I don't not a fan of tampering with movies after they've been made, but this is one of those cases like, yeah, like, somebody go ahead and fix that SFX work in regards to the raw puppet stuff in Alien 3. I know there's definitely fan edits to the film that have addressed that and fixed it. It actually looks pretty good in some of the fan edits, but I would like to see an official version of Alien 3 that fixes that raw puppet stuff and puts in some good CGI, overlay that over it, and that would definitely. I think if that alone, like I've seen people watch Alien 3, like yeah, that those moments like take them out of the movie, and I think that would definitely help people, view and experience Alien 3, just fixing those scenes. Besides Sigourney Weaver, other actors in the film will give great performances. Charles Dance. This wasn't the first time I've seen Charles Dance in anything. I saw him a few years earlier in Golden Child, but this character didn't really, just stick with me. But yeah, this is the first time I took notice of Charles Dance as an actor playing Clemens, and he's wonderful in the role. Very heartfelt role, a sincere character who's just looking for redemption and finds something else unfortunately, but he definitely does get his redemption in a way. But he's fantastic in the film. Another person who's great in a movie, another actor, is Charles S. Dutton. He is just to me phenomenal. Is Dylan. Other actors who are great in the movie: Brian Glover, Ralph Brown, Danny Webb, Holt McCallany, Paul McGann, and of course Lance Henriksen, who plays dual roles in this film as the Bishop we all love from Aliens, and at least according to the Alien 3 cards, the creator of Bishop and Bishop's creator, Michael Bishop. And Pete Postlethwaite's in this movie too, actually. But yeah, like the whole cast in this is strong in Alien 3. And of course, not only is the cast strong in this film, the direction is strong in this film. This film is the cinematic debut of one of the greatest cinematic visionaries of all time, David Fincher. I became a massive David Fincher fan because of this film. Before Fight Club, before Seven, I was a fan of David Fincher because of this movie. A movie which he detests, which I wish he didn't. I don't know if he's ever seen Alien 3 since, he worked on it. And maybe he has, and maybe like his feelings haven't changed, but I would not be surprised if he hasn't. And I would tell him, like, maybe you should just give this film one more shot. Like, I don't know. I think maybe if he gave it another shot, like, he may feel a little bit differently. But I also understand, like, why he feels how he does about the film. Just, a number of reasons, obvious reasons. But I also get it. Like, you go ahead and you make something, and the experience of making it might taint your view of the final product. And no matter how great the final product is, you can't separate your experience from the final work. And I get it. And David Fincher went through a lot of bullshit making this movie. This film nearly drove David Fincher to end his dream of being a movie making director. He was known for doing music videos beforehand, and I think he might have dabbled in some SFX work as well before Alien 3. But yeah, this film nearly killed his dream, and it was bullshit what he went through making this movie. But I would tell David Fincher, I don't maybe just give this one more chance. Like, again, you may actually maybe not like it, but just have like less negative feelings toward the film. But maybe he has, and like, yeah, I have, and I still hate it. Like, he's famously said, nobody hates Alien 3 more than me, and I get it. But despite his feelings, even though he feels how he feels about the film, I still love this movie. And particularly, I love the assembly cut. Like, I remember hearing about the assembly cut like years later, and I was on the internet. This is when I first got the internet, and I remember like going on a website that was all about the Alien series, and I discovered that there's this extended cut of the movie that was out there, this work print version that had all these scenes in it. And I'm like, what? I never heard this. Like, where can I give myself a copy? And I remember like I desperately wanted to like see this version of the film, this longer version of the film, this fuller version of the film. Not just full in terms of just like more sequences, but like filling in plot holes that the film had. I remember there was definitely like I didn't think Alien 3 was a perfect movie, nowhere close. It definitely was a film that, as much as I loved it, I thought was, at least in some areas, like script wise, was quite flawed. Like the sudden like disappearance of Garlic. Like what happened to Garlic? Like after Clemens was killed, is like Garlic just disappears, and the movie never accounts for that. Like what happened here? What happened to his character? Like it didn't look like the alien killed him, so I don't know. Like that always bothered me. And just other little things in the film, like story wise, character wise, that didn't necessarily make sense when you thought about them. And so when I found there was this cut that addressed like the disappearance of Garlic, for example, like I got to see this movie. But at that point, it wasn't out for any official release. It was like bootleg copies of the film, and I never managed to get my hands on any of them. And but eventually, though, like years later, they had the Alien Quadrilogy, like one of my favorite, most prized possessions that have like DVD. Had the Quadrilogy pack of films, and had Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection. And I remember like I just went through this whole entire like quadrilogy of films. Like went through the films, went through all the extras. Like particularly for the first two movies, I'm not a fan of Alien Resurrection, to say the least. I don't know if I'll ever talk about that movie at any real length, but yeah, the first three, like watched them all over again, because this quadrilogy had like not only the theatrical cuts of the movie, but it also had like extended cuts of the films, or at least different cuts of the films. There was Alien and Aliens Director's Cut. There was Aliens and Aliens Special Edition, and it had Alien 3 and Alien 3 the Assembly Cut. And I had learned that the Assembly Cut was not a director's cut, which some people to this day think is a director's cut of the film. It's not. David Fincher had nothing to do with the release of this cut of the film. Someone else was in charge. His name is Charles. I can't remember his last name. He was like the main person who was spearheading this version of Alien 3. And but yeah, like this version of Alien 3, I think was like a half hour longer than, or around about a half hour longer than the theatrical cut. And not only did it have some scenes that most of it was like including like deleted scenes, but there's also like a few bits that were removed from the theatrical cut, like unnecessary stuff, or stuff, I don't know if all was unnecessary. Like the only area which I prefer of the theatrical version over the assembly cut was with where the alien came from. It makes more sense. Even though we all hated seeing that dog die on screen in the theatrical cut, it made more sense for the alien to come from a dog than from an ox. I don't think that worked at all with the alien coming from an ox. It's just the way how the scenes play out and stuff like that. It just doesn't work, and it doesn't have the same emotional impact as having the dog be the host. But beyond that, all the new footage was all the changes that they made with the assembly cut was made it unquestionably superior. Like to me, like night and day superior to the theatrical cut. Like I never watched the theatrical cut again. Like once I saw the assembly cut, like it flows so much better. The film is more fleshed out. The story's more fleshed out. Things make more sense. Character motivations make more sense. They're more clearer. And yeah, it's just hands down the better movie. And I'm like, had this version of Alien 3 came out in theaters, the assembly cut, there's no question Alien 3 would have been a success to me. I'm not saying it would have been a success in the way that the first two were financially. I don't know if it would have been as successful or critically, it would have been as successful. But in terms of just the overall reception, would have definitely been better than the reception that Alien 3 initially got in '92. No question about that. And I think from the jump, there would have been definitely like champions for Alien 3 at the very beginning. The assembly cut of Alien 3 is a more richer, grander, more emotionally resonant, and emotionally satisfying film than the theatrical cut. I mean, Alien 3 is not, and never will be, unfortunately, considered to be anywhere close to a classic that the first two Alien films are regarded to be. Um, but it certainly has developed a following, a very vocal following of people who do their best to make sure everybody knows that it's a film that is more than worthwhile watching. And I happen to be one of those people. Yeah, like there's definitely been a reevaluation, maybe not in a major way, but certainly more than minor reevaluation of Alien 3, particularly in regards to the assembly cut. I don't think Alien 3 was unfairly judged during its initial release. I think the reaction to Alien 3 garnered back when it came out was to a considerable degree justified. But I think it's a film that there's more than enough, despite whatever issues the film have. I think there's more than enough inside Alien 3, particularly particularly the assembly cut, where the film should be given a considerable reevaluation. I think Alien 3 deserves reevaluation because of the things I mentioned before. Like, you just don't see major blockbusting filmmaking that is willing to be daring the way that it is in regards to exploring loss and grief, in regards to exploring thoughts of ending your life, in regards to the themes of hopelessness, in regards to, faith and redemption. And I think Alien 3 does a great job like balancing all those themes and all those questions all throughout the film. And I think in the end it provides a satisfying answer. And I believe in the end Alien 3 is a cathartic experience. Alien 3 is most certainly not a perfect film. It is unquestionably an imperfect organism. But it is one that I unabashedly love and adore. Particularly the assembly cut of the film. Most people would say that Alien 3 is, even fans of the film would say that Alien 3 is easily one big step down or even steps down from the first two. And even though I would agree that in terms of the whole overall package that, Alien and Aliens are the better movies, but on an emotional level though, on an entertaining level, on an engaging level, I find Alien 3 to be just as good as the first two Alien movies. When people consider the best cinematic trilogies of all time, I definitely would consider Aliens, and Alien 3 to be one of those trilogies. And Alien through Alien 3 is a trilogy, even though you have Resurrection, you have all these other Alien films that followed after, and some of them were sequels. Aliens, Alien 3 are a trilogy. They are the Ellen Ripley trilogy, the original Ellen Ripley. After Alien 3, there is no more Ellen Ripley. Whatever, like Alien Resurrection, that is a clone of Ellen Ripley, but that is not the original Ellen Ripley. The original Ellen Ripley is in these first three movies. And the first three Alien movies are very, very special to me. The Ellen Ripley trilogy showcases some of the best scenes that cinema has to offer, some of the best stories that cinema has to offer, and some of the best characters that cinema has to offer, and some of the best of everything that cinema has and ever will have to offer. Ellen Ripley's sacrifice at the end of this movie is one of the most heartfelt things I've ever seen. I remember seeing this in theaters for the first time, and it was the second time that I'd ever cried for a character's death on screen. First time being the T-800 dying in T2. And yeah, to this day, like when I see the ending of Alien 3, seeing Ella Ripley's demise, her her great sacrifice, like it's still you know, makes me definitely well up with emotions inside. This is a really powerful moment. So to all you Alien 3 apologists out there, if anyone ever tells you that no one else besides you loves Alien 3, so you can go ahead and tell them I do.